Hey everyone! Are you always worried about making mistakes when you speak English?
Do you freeze up when you try to order coffee or talk to a colleague?
You know that feeling, right? Where you have the perfect sentence in your head, but then you stop.
You start because you start thinking about the past perfect tense, or whether you should use a or the.
Exactly. That hesitation, that little pause, is what we want to tackle today.
We want to help you push past that fear and just start communicating.
Hi everyone! I'm Mia.
And I'm Leo.
Welcome back to the English Blend. This is where we learn English naturally and easily.
Our episode today is called Motivation Words from Successful People. But really, it's about finding the motivation to speak freely.
It's about understanding that communication is the real goal, not perfection.
We want to talk about how to achieve real speaking flow, even if your grammar isn't 100% perfect yet.
Exactly. So grab your coffee and let's get started.
We are starting with a really big concept that confuses so many English learners.
It's the difference between fluency and accuracy. These two things are not the same, but people often think they are, right?
That's a great way to put it. People often mix them up. They think if they aren't accurate, they aren't fluent.
But that is simply not true. Let's define them simply for our A2 to B2 learners.
Accuracy is how correct your language is. Think of grammar rules, verb conjugations, getting the right prepositions, using vocabulary perfectly.
If a sentence is accurate, it means a grammar teacher would give it full marks. It's technically correct.
But fluency, that's completely different. Fluency is about the flow of communication.
It's about speaking smoothly, without too many long pauses, and getting your message across.
Think of it like driving a car. Accuracy is making sure you follow every single traffic rule perfectly. You stop exactly at the line.
But fluency is just keeping the car moving smoothly down the road, even if you sometimes tap the brakes a little early or late.
The point of fluency is speed and consistency. It's about minimizing those stopping points.
You might make a little grammar mistake, a tiny error in tense, but if the person you're speaking to understands you instantly, you are being fluent.
And that is the motivation we want to give you. Fluency equals communication, not perfection.
Right. If you go into a cafe and you want to order a coffee, and you say, "I want large coffee, please," you've made a mistake.
Technically, you should say, I want a large coffee, please, or I would like a large coffee. That little is missing.
But the barista understands you completely, instantly, right? They don't stop and say, "Excuse me, your article usage is incorrect." They just give you the coffee. The communication succeeded. That is fluency in action.
This leads us directly to the main roadblock we see in almost every advanced beginner or intermediate learner.
And that roadblock is grammar. Why does grammar, which is supposed to help us, often become the thing that stops our fluency?
It's because of the pressure to be accurate. We spend so much time studying the rules in a textbook.
We learn the rules for hours, and we can ace a test on the conditional tense, no problem.
But when we open our mouths to speak, our brain tries to apply all those complex rules in real time.
And that process, the mental checklist, takes time. It creates those long, uncomfortable pauses.
Our internal process looks like this. I want to say X. Wait, is X singular or plural? Is this past, present, or future? Oh no, is this an irregular verb?
By the time you've answered all those questions, the moment has passed. The conversation has moved on.
Or, even worse, you get so frustrated that you just say, never mind, or you switch back to your native language.
We call that phenomenon grammar blocking. Your pursuit of accuracy is blocking your ability to achieve fluency.
It's like trying to check the engine and the tires and the oil level every 2 seconds while you are trying to drive quickly on the highway.
You would never get anywhere. You have to trust that the car, your basic language knowledge, is good enough to run.
And this is where the motivation comes in. You have to give yourself permission to make mistakes.
We need to shift the focus. Stop trying to sound like a textbook and start trying to sound like a human being.
Human beings, even native speakers, make grammatical errors all the time, you know?
That is a perfect point for a short story or cultural note. People sometimes think native speakers are these walking, talking grammar machines.
Oh, absolutely not. If you listen to native English speakers in casual conversation, especially if they are excited or comfortable,
You will hear incomplete sentences, run-on sentences, subject-verb disagreements sometimes, and lots of slang that breaks traditional rules.
think about how often people use me and him went to the store instead of the technically accurate he and I went to the store.
We say it all the time, especially when we are speaking quickly or naturally. In conversation, communication wins over correctness.
A cultural note from the US, for example, is the casual use of the word like as a filler, or even totally.
It adds rhythm, but grammatically it's not adding information, but it sounds natural. We value the flow, the connection.
So, if native speakers prioritize flow over flawless grammar, why are learners so strict with themselves?
It's because they feel they are being judged, maybe by teachers, maybe by other speakers, or maybe just by that loud inner critic.
We need to silence that inner critic. Tell that voice that says, that verb tense is wrong, to take a break.
Tell it, thank you for the input, but I need to get my point across right now. That's our first useful phrase for today.
To get your point across. This means successfully making someone understand your main idea or message.
If you manage to order the coffee, you got your point across. If your colleague understands the project deadline, you got your point across.
The grammar might be slightly wobbly, but the message arrived intact.
So how do we actually do this? How do we train our brains to prioritize fluency and silence the grammar checker?
We have 3 essential practical tips that can totally change how you approach speaking practice.
These are the actions you can take starting today. No more just reading textbooks.
Our first tip is called massive listening and imitation.
We talk about this a lot, but it's foundational. Your brain needs to hear the language used naturally, thousands of times.
Think of it like this. You can't learn to dance by just reading a book about dance steps. You have to watch dancers and then try to copy them.
When you listen massively to podcasts, YouTube videos, movies, and music, your brain starts recognizing language chunks.
And that leads to our second crucial tip, learning in chunks. Stop learning individual words.
Yes, if you learn the word delicious, that's good. But if you learn the chunk, that food is absolutely delicious, that's much better.
Chunks are groups of words that native speakers always put together. They are ready-made phrases.
Like, what are you up to? Or, I'm looking forward to it. You don't build those sentences word by word. You use them as a single block.
Learning chunks means you don't have to worry about the grammar inside the chunk. It's already correct.
When you speak, you retrieve a chunk instead of building a sentence from scratch. This speeds up your fluency instantly.
Instead of thinking, I need verb go, past tense is went, preposition is to, I went to.
You just grab the chunk. I went to the store. Or even better, I'm heading out now.
This massively reduces the cognitive load, the thinking work your brain has to do when you are speaking.
And the third tip is the one that directly attacks grammar blocking. We call it the 3-second rule.
Oh, I love the 3-second rule. It's simple, but it requires discipline.
The rule is this. When you are speaking, if you pause for longer than 3 seconds to think about grammar or vocabulary, you must stop thinking and just say the incomplete or imperfect sentence you have ready.
You must choose communication over correctness. If you hesitate, you are letting the grammar critic win.
3 seconds is just enough time to retrieve a common word, but not enough time to conjugate a complex verb tense.
If you were talking to a colleague and you were explaining a graph and you pause for 4, 5, 6 seconds, you've lost their attention.
But if you say, the sales number, it grew very high last month, they understand you. It might be grammatically imperfect, it should be grew, but you kept the flow.
And they will likely correct you mentally, but they will still understand the meaning. Your mission, to communicate, was accomplished.
So, to recap the tips, massive listening, learn in chunks, and use the 3-second rule. These build automaticity.
Automaticity is key. You want the words to come out without thinking, just like when you speak your native language.
Now, let's focus on some useful phrases that can really help you navigate the ups and downs of language learning.
We already talked about get your point across. Let's introduce our second important idiom.
Sometimes when you are studying really hard or you're trying to use these new chunks, you feel stuck. You feel like you aren't improving anymore.
That's when you hit a wall. This phrase is great for learners to express frustration.
When you hit a wall, it means you reach a barrier or a point where progress seems impossible or very difficult, even though you keep trying.
Maybe you've been studying for 6 months and suddenly you can't remember anything, or you feel exhausted by speaking practice. That's hitting a wall.
It's a very natural part of the learning process. Everyone hits a wall, whether they're learning English, playing a sport, or mastering a skill.
When you hit a wall, you should acknowledge it. Say, I think I've hit a wall today. I need a break. It's important to rest.
If you try to push through too hard when you've hit a wall, you often end up frustrated and burn out.
And sometimes when you are trying to be fluent and fast, you make a really big mistake. Maybe you confuse 2 words entirely, or you accidentally say something funny or inappropriate.
You might feel completely embarrassed and you want to give up studying English forever. You think the mistake is a massive failure.
That's where our third phrase comes in handy. It's not the end of the world.
This means the mistake or problem is annoying or bad, but it is not a disaster. It is not catastrophic.
Losing your wallet? That's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Making a grammar mistake in front of your boss? Annoying, but it's not the end of the world.
The opposite of it's the end of the world is saying that life goes on and the mistake can be fixed or forgotten.
We want you to use this phrase on yourself every time you make an error while trying to be fluent.
You might say, oops, I used the wrong tense, but hey, it's not the end of the world. They understood me.
This positive self-talk is a huge part of being motivated. It takes the pressure off.
Think about the successful people mentioned in our title. They achieved success because they kept trying, even after failure. They didn't let one mistake stop their entire mission.
They prioritized action, fluency, over perfect preparation, accuracy.
It's all about reframing your perspective. Your goal in English conversation is not to pass an examination, it's to connect with people.
Connection requires speed, warmth, and understandable language. Connection does not require perfect verb forms.
If you listen to native speakers, you'll notice they use lots of fillers like you know, like, right? These aren't grammar, they are fluency tools.
They're tools to keep the acoustic space filled so the listener knows you haven't finished your thought.
As A2 and B1 learners, use simple fillers like well or let me see to buy yourself a second or two without violating the 3-second rule.
This maintains your flow and signals that you are still thinking, which is much better than total silence.
Remember the cafe example. I want large coffee, please. Fluent, effective, slightly inaccurate.
If you had stopped to check the articles, you might have ended up saying, I want a, and the barista would look confused.
Confusion is worse than inaccuracy. Confusion means you failed to get your point across.
The motivation is simple. Communicate now. The time for correction is in your study time, not in your speaking time.
When you are reviewing material later, that's when you go back and fix the errors you made when you were speaking. That's productive learning. But when the moment comes to speak, be brave and fast.
Let's quickly recap the main takeaway from today's episode of The English Blend.
We talked about how fluency is about smooth communication and flow, while accuracy is about grammatical correctness. They are two different goals.
We emphasized that aiming too hard for accuracy often leads to grammar blocking, which stops your fluency dead in its tracks.
We gave you 3 practical steps: massive listening, learning in chunks, ready-made phrases, and using the 3-second rule to stop hesitation.
And we introduced 3 helpful phrases: get your point across, the goal of communication, hit a wall when you feel stuck in learning, and remembering that a mistake means it's not the end of the world.
We really encourage you, our listeners, to try the 3-second rule this week. Don't let your inner critic win. Just open your mouth and use whatever English comes out, as long as it gets the message delivered.
Daily practice, even just a little bit, is the key to building those chunks and increasing your automaticity.
That was a great talk. It's such an important mindset shift for learners.
It really is. Next time on The English Blend, we are going to dive into the best ways to practice English when you are completely alone.
Yes, how to practice your speaking when there's no one around to talk to. That's going to be very helpful.
So join us then.
Yes, see you in the next episode of The English Blend.